and welcome to Pitboards and Podiums with me, Maya Westwick. In today's episode, we are going to be talking all about Charles Leclerc, so buckle up and let's talk F1. Alright guys, so as I said, today's episode is all about Charles Leclerc. We are doing his driver profile today. So, Charles Leclerc was born on the 16th of October 1997, so he's currently 26 years old and he is a Libra. His full name, I'm going to give you his full name, purely because it's long and I want to. So his full name is Charles Marc Hervé Percival Leclerc. He was born in Monte Carlo as the middle child of Hervé and Pascal Leclerc, between older brother Lorenzo and younger brother Arthur, who last raced in the 2023 Formula 2 season. His father also raced cars and he drove in the equivalent of Formula 3 in the 1980s and 1990s. And his older brother Lorenzo was best friends with Formula 1 driver Jules Bianchi, who became Charles' godfather. Jules Bianchi was a very, very talented driver, and a lot of people thought that he was about to kind of break out into the main Ferrari team in Formula 1 and become like a proper star with Ferrari. But unfortunately, he did tragically die in 2015 after spending 9 months in a coma, in an induced coma after an accident at the 2014 Japanese Grand Prix. So, of course, that meant that Charles lost his godfather. And then in 2017, during his Formula 2 season, Leclerc's father died after a long illness just 4 days before Leclerc went on to win the feature race in Baku at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So he has had to kind of deal with a lot of things that have been happening, a lot of loss, a lot of pain that has happened alongside his career in motorsports. So it's really that kind of mental fortitude that athletes have to have, especially with motorsports, because the drivers know full well that every time they get in the car they could die. There is always that potential, no matter how many safety measures are put in place. So obviously it's something that they have to be able to compartmentalise and deal with, and Charles has had to do that quite a bit, especially for someone at such a young age. So obviously Leclerc drives for Ferrari in Formula 1, and a lot of people kind of love that because of everything, because of his relationship with Bianchi and all of that, because Bianchi was kind of gearing up to move to Ferrari and be like this golden boy for Ferrari when he tragically had his accident, and now Charles is that golden boy for them, which is quite nice. He fluently speaks French, which is his native language, Italian, because obviously Ferrari, and English. And he began his karting career in 2005, winning the French PACA Championship, PACA Championship, in 2005, 2006 and 2008. In 2009, he became French Cadet Champion. In 2010, he then moved up to the KF3 class, winning the Junior Monaco Cup. In 2011, again in the KF3 class, he won the CIK FIA KF3 World Cup, the CIK FIA Karting Academy Trophy, and the ERDF Junior Kart Master. He joined Nicolas Tot, so the son of Ferrari legend, team principal, head of the FIA, all of that sort of thing. The son of Jean Tot, he joined Nicolas Tot's management company in 2011. That's All Road Management. He does have new management now, but obviously this is the management he had through his junior career going forward to becoming a Formula 1 driver. In 2012, he then moved up to the KF2 class in karting with the ART Grand Prix team, winning the WSK Euro Series title. That series is also where the iconic hymn, Max Verstappen, what happened? Oh, it's not fair. Nothing, just an incident. All of that. That's where that happened. That's where that quote comes from. And he finished runner-up in the CIK FIA European KF2 Championship and the CIK FIA Under 18 World Karting Championship. In 2013, which is his final year in karting, he won the South Garda Winter Cup, claimed 6th position in the CIK FIA European KZ Championship, and finished 2nd in the CIK FIA World KZ Championship behind Max Verstappen. In 2014, Leclerc then moved up into single-seaters racing in the Formula Renault 2.0 Alps Championship for British team Fortec Motorsports. He took 7 podium positions, including a double victory at Monza, finishing P2 in the championship behind Nick de Vries, and he was the highest finishing rookie in that series. He also took part in a partial Eurocup Formula Renault 2.0 season as a guest driver with Fortec, competing in 6 races. Out of those 6, he finished on the podium 3 times. In 2015, he then graduated up to Formula 3, racing with Van Amersfoort Racing. He finished 4th in the championship, taking 4 wins, 3 poles, 5 fastest laps and 13 podiums. And he also competed in the Macau Grand Prix and finished 2nd, which is an incredible feat of its own. In 2016, he competed in GP3 with ART Grand Prix, winning the championship in his rookie season and taking 3 wins, 4 poles, 4 fastest laps and 8 podium finishes, despite crashing out in the feature race of the final race weekend in Abu Dhabi. He also joined the Ferrari Driver Academy and acted as a development driver for both Haas F1 and Scuderia Ferrari, and he drove for Haas in the free practice 1 sessions at both the British and German Grand Prix. It was rumoured that he would go straight from Formula 3 into Formula 1 if he won the title, but these were debunked by the Haas team principal Gunther Steiner. So that's his Formula 3 GP3 season. And then in 2017 he moved up to Formula 2 with Prema Racing. This was his first time racing at home in Monaco and the beginning of his home race curse, which I'm going to talk about through each year that he's raced at Monaco. He retired from the lead of the race with a suspension problem after starting in pole, and then for the sprint race for the Formula 2 weekend that weekend, he started the sprint race from the back of the grid because he retired from the feature race, and then he collided with Norman Nato while he was trying to make his way back up the order, again retiring from the race, so he didn't finish at all at his first ever race weekend at home. He claimed the Formula 2 championship at the penultimate weekend of his rookie season, that was at Jerez. He became the youngest ever champion of the main support series for Formula 1 at 19 years and 356 days, and the first driver since Nico Hülkenberg in 2009 to win the championship in their rookie season, joining Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton in that achievement as well. In 2018, Leclerc signed with Sauber to be a full-time F1 race driver, which marked the first appearance of a Monegasque Formula 1 driver since Oliver Beretta in 1994. He scored his first Formula 1 points at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix with a 6th place finish, making him the second Monegasque driver to score points in Formula 1 after Louis Chiron back in 1950. So a long time ago, literally the year that Formula 1 started. At the 2018 Monaco Grand Prix, which was his first home race in Formula 1, he suffered a brake failure in the closing laps of the race and then collided into the back of Brendan Hartley, and that forced both cars to have to retire from the race. That year, he also retired from the British Grand Prix with a loose wheel, from the Hungarian Grand Prix with suspension damage after a collision with Sergio Perez, the Belgian Grand Prix after a multi-car accident caused by Nico Hülkenberg resulted in Fernando Alonso's car literally going over the top, like being launched over the top of Leclerc's car, the Japanese Grand Prix with a mechanical failure, and the US Grand Prix with damage from a collision with Romain Grosjean. He finished 13th in the championship with 39 points and outqualified his teammate Marcus Ericsson at 17 of the 21 races that year. In 2019, Leclerc then moved up to Ferrari, replacing the 2007 world champion Kimi Räikkönen, who then also went down to Sauber where Leclerc had come from, so they basically just swapped, and he was partnering 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. A few days after his announcement as a driver, the then team principal Maurizio Arrivabene said that Leclerc's contract was going to run at least until 2022. This meant that Leclerc actually signed the longest contract for a Formula 1 driver in Ferrari history, and it's literally the start of his 2nd year in the sport. So they could see some potential in him. At his 2nd race weekend with Ferrari, the Bahrain Grand Prix, he qualified on pole, setting a new track record and becoming Ferrari's youngest ever pole sitter. He led the majority of the race, but was overtaken by the Mercedes cars of both Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas after his engine dropped a cylinder with a failed fuel injector. So again, the fault of the car. A late safety car prevented Max Verstappen being able to get past him for P3, which allowed Leclerc to finish the race in third, which was his first Formula One podium. At the Monaco Grand Prix, he was eliminated in Q1 and started P15 due to Ferrari making a strategy error, who would have thought, and failing to take advantage of track evolution at the end of the session, which other drivers did, and then Leclerc did not have a fast enough time. In the race, he suffered a puncture and severe floor damage after a failed attempt to pass Nico Hülkenberg, which then caused him to have to retire from the race. So again, the home race curse. At the Belgian Grand Prix, Leclerc took his third pole position of the season with teammate Sebastian Vettel in P2, which was the second Ferrari front row lockout of the season. He fended off Lewis Hamilton's attempts to pass him and won his first ever Formula One race, making him Ferrari's youngest ever race winner. He dedicated this win to Anton Hubert, who tragically died the day before in an accident during the Formula 2 feature race. Anton Hubert was a friend and former competitor of Charles and many other drivers on the grid, so obviously that race weekend was very emotional for a lot of them because they knew they had to go back out on track and race over the exact place that their friend had died the day before, and that is just kind of like a really harsh reality of Formula One and of motorsports, that yes, like there's all the glitz and the glamour of it and all of that and the adrenaline and the fun, but there is also the very real possibility of every time they get in the car they might not be going home, and that's something that like plays on some drivers' minds more than others. Lando Norris has spoken about it playing on his mind. Other drivers wouldn't think about it that much, but it's something that obviously they have to consider. But since Charles was able to win that race, he did dedicate his win, his first ever Formula One win, to Hubert. At the Italian Grand Prix, he won from pole, becoming the first Ferrari driver to win in Monza since Fernando Alonso in 2010. And then his worst finish of the season came at the Japanese Grand Prix, which was only 6th place. That was his worst finish of the entire season. That happened after he took damage in a lap 1 collision with Max Verstappen, which just affected his entire race, and that's why he finished down in 6th. But for that to be his worst finish, obviously there were some races he didn't finish at all, but for that to be his worst finish of the season, that is very, very good. At the Brazilian Grand Prix, both the Ferrari drivers retired from the race after they controversially collided, which was Leclerc's third retirement of the season. He ended the 2019 season 4th in the championship with 264 points, and he was ahead of teammate Sebastian Vettel. He achieved 10 podiums, 2 wins, 4 fastest laps and 7 pole positions, which was the most of any driver that season, making him the first non-Mercedes driver to win the pole position award, because it wasn't like a long-standing award at that point. And this season also sealed his fate with the Tifosi, Ferrari fans, you know, the big Italian following of Ferrari, of being il predestinato, which basically means he is like the predestined, like he is like their hope, do you know what I mean? Particularly after his win at Monza. After that, he was their everything, and he still is their everything. In 2020, Leclerc at the Styrian Grand Prix, so the second race of the year, collided with teammate Vettel and crashed both of them out of the race. And even though the stewards viewed that to be a racing incident, nobody got any penalties or anything like that, Leclerc did accept full responsibility for it afterwards because he knows that he kind of caused that accident. Leclerc in 2020 was one of 6 drivers to not take the knee ahead of the season opener in Austria. That was himself, Max Verstappen, Antonio Giovinazzi, Daniel Kvyat, Carlos Sainz and Kimi Raikkonen, which did lead to quite a bit of criticism and accusations of racism as he continued to not take the knee throughout the season. And then ahead of the 70th anniversary Grand Prix at Silverstone, so the second of the 2 races at Silverstone that year, he reacted quite angrily to these accusations and said that headlines were manipulating his words, and he stated that racism is disgusting because he had said prior to the season that he personally wasn't going to take the knee because of potential negative connotations politically of that, which he was called out on. And I mean, Lewis Hamilton spoke to every single driver on the grid and encouraged them to do it and explained why it was important, but ultimately said to them, like, it's their personal choice, they don't have to. But certain drivers on the grid that didn't do it, particularly those who maybe had been vocal about other things, or who people just expected better of, like people have quite opinions of Charles, they did seem to get quite a bit of stick for not doing that. He still took part in the wee races, 1 minute of silence and all of that before each race, but he stood for it rather than kneeling for it, as did all of the other drivers that didn't kneel. Due to COVID, that year there was not a Monaco Grand Prix, so his home race curse couldn't happen because he didn't have a home race. And he finished the championship in 8th, scoring 98 points with 2 podium finishes. Those podium finishes were a 2nd place finish at the season opener in Austria and a 3rd place at the British Grand Prix, so the first of the 2 races at Silverstone. At the beginning of the 2021 season, he extended his contract with Ferrari until the end of 2024. Vettel moved to Aston Martin and Carlos Sainz moved from McLaren to join Ferrari as Leclerc's teammate. He qualified on pole for the Monaco Grand Prix that year, despite crashing at the end of qualifying, and he was unfortunately unable to even start the race, because you can't not finish a race that you don't start. So he suffered a drive shaft issue on his way to the grid, which was a result of the crash he'd had the day before in qualifying that Ferrari had not investigated properly. They just thought, yeah, we've fixed the damage, the car's fine. The car was not fine and he couldn't do the race. He claimed his only podium of the season at the British Grand Prix, and that was kind of taking advantage of what happened on the first lap. So obviously there was the collision at Copse Corner between Hamilton and Verstappen. Charles qualified in P4, he already passed Valtteri Bottas, and then when that collision happened, he took advantage of that, went past both of them. Obviously he went past Max because Max was in the wall, but went past both of them and of course claimed the lead of the race. And then he managed to hold on to the lead of the race until there was 2 laps to go when Lewis Hamilton passed him again at Copse Corner, where the accident had happened on lap 1. And so he finished the race in P2. He finished P7 in the championship with 159 points, behind Sainz in 5th with 164.5 points. That was the first and only time in his career so far that Leclerc has been beaten by a teammate in his racing career. Not even just his Formula 1 career, like his entire racing career. In 2022, Leclerc won the first race of the year and got a point for fastest lap, with Sainz finishing in P2, which was a really good start to the year for himself and for Ferrari, because it meant that, of course, Leclerc was at the top of the Drivers' Championship after the first round with the maximum amount of points he could have got, and Ferrari were at the top of the Constructors' Championship with the maximum amount of points they could have got. That made Leclerc the first ever monogasque driver to leave the World Drivers' Championship as well. He finished 2nd at the second race of the season in Saudi Arabia, and then took a dominant victory at the Australian Grand Prix, achieving his first Formula 1 Grand Slam, which is where he took pole, the win, fastest lap, and led every single lap of the race. That was Ferrari's first Grand Slam since the 2010 Singapore Grand Prix. He led the Spanish Grand Prix with a very large margin until a power unit issue forced him to retire from the race, allowing Verstappen to win the race and also take the lead in the World Drivers' Championship. After taking pole at Monaco, he eventually finished 4th due to Ferrari getting the strategy wrong on a wet track. Although that was the first time that he'd managed to finish a race at home, and he also scored points. So he didn't win, but at least he finished and got some decent points. And it is also the highest so far in his career he has ever finished at home. In Azerbaijan, he retired from the lead again with a power unit failure, which made him fall down to 3rd in the World Drivers' Championship behind both of the Red Bull drivers. After an excellent recovery drive, he finished the Canadian Grand Prix in 5th after starting 19th due to penalties for exceeding his power units component allocations for the year. He won the Austrian Grand Prix, and he took pole at the French Grand Prix before crashing out on lap 18 due to driver error. He made a mistake, it cost him. Ferrari's strategy meant that he finished the Hungarian Grand Prix 6th after qualifying 3rd, with Verstappen winning the race after qualifying 10th, extending his lead over Leclerc in the championship to 80 points over Leclerc. By the Dutch Grand Prix, Leclerc admitted that he'd stopped counting the points deficit to Verstappen and he was just focused on getting as many points as he could at this point rather than trying to close the gap and get past Verstappen again in the championship, because his hopes for a World Drivers' Championship literally slipped further and further away from him each race. In the final race at Abu Dhabi, Leclerc and Perez were tied on 290 points each for P2 in the championship. They qualified with Perez in P2 and Leclerc in P3, but Leclerc did pass Perez and he held on to finish P2 with Perez in P3, securing his own P2 in the World Drivers' Championship and Ferrari's P2 in the World Constructors' Championship. In 2023, Leclerc had quite a bad start to the season. He retired from the opening race in Bahrain on lap 41 due to technical problems, while he had actually been on course to finish third, so obviously very disappointing. He took a 10-place grid penalty in Saudi Arabia for breaching the allowed quota of control electronics for the season already, bearing in mind this is the second race of the year. But he had to get those new parts because of his retirement at the first race of the year. He started from 12th with this 10-place grid penalty and recovered up to finish in P7, so he got a few points. The third race of the year, the Australian Grand Prix, he had to retire from again after a lap 1 collision with Lance Stroll. He scored his first pole of the year at Azerbaijan, although Perez won both the sprint and the main race in Azerbaijan, with Leclerc securing podium finishes for both of them. After crashing in Q3 in Miami, he started and finished the race in P7, was not able to make up any positions, but equally, he didn't lose any. At Monaco, he qualified third but started 6th due to a 3-place grid penalty for impeding in Q3, and he finished the race in P6. Again, was not able to make up any positions but didn't lose any. He started from the pit lane in Spain after qualifying 19th and went on to finish 11th, 1 place outside of the points, so even though he drove very well and recovered up to 11th, he still did not get any points for it. In Canada, he qualified 11th but started 10th due to other people getting penalties, and Ferrari decided to not pit their drivers under a safety car when a lot of the rest of the grid did pit, which left Leclerc out in P4 and Sainz out in P5. Both drivers were then able to build up enough of a gap that they could then make a pit stop later in the race and rejoin the race in the same positions with fresher tyres when everyone else's tyres are really starting to struggle towards the end. So Leclerc managed to finish 4th in that race, less than 5 seconds behind Hamilton in P3, and he and Sir Lewis Hamilton were both disqualified from the US Grand Prix after the race for excessive wear on their skid blocks. He had qualified on pole and he finished the race in P6. Lewis got up to P3 on the podium, but both of them were disqualified because their skid block, which is the bit on the floor of the car that hits against the track and against curbs and stuff like that, had worn down too much over the race weekend. At the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, he started on the front row but crashed out on the formation lap after a hydraulics issue at Ferradura, which is the same corner that he crashed at in the 2022 race. And he finished the season with 206 points, joint with Fernando Alonso at points-wise at P4 in the championship. But on count-back based on podium finishes and all of that sort of thing, Alonso finished in P4 and Leclerc in P5, ahead of his teammate Sainz in P7, although Sainz was the only non-Red Bull driver to win a race that year at the Singapore Grand Prix. Leclerc has a reputation for qualifying on pole, and he currently holds the record for achieving the highest tally of pole positions without winning a World Drivers' Championship, but I think that's coming. And he was awarded the Autosport Awards Rookie of the Year award and the FIA Rookie of the Year award in 2017. He won the same 2 awards again in 2018, so he's got them for his F2 rookie season and his F1 rookie season, along with, and I'm going to absolutely butcher the pronunciation of this, I'm so sorry, I do not speak Italian. I'm going to do my best. So also in 2018, he won the Confarti Giannato Motori Best Young Driver Award. And then in 2019, he won the Pirelli Pole Position Trophy. In 2020, he won the Confarti Giannato Motori Driver of the Year and the Monaco Medal of Honor. And in 2023, he won the Crypto.com Overtake of the Year award for his overtake on Sergio Perez at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Outside of Formula One, Leclerc is also an ambassador or / endorsement model for quite high-end brands such as like Giorgio Armani and AMP Monaco. And in 2018, he was named ambassador for the Princess Charlotte of Monaco Foundation, helping to promote the benefits of learning to swim. In 2020, he assisted the Red Cross of Monaco, helping to deliver meals and medical supplies transporting hospital equipment during the COVID-19 pandemic. He also supported the Italian Red Cross and encouraged people to donate to them. He has made appearances in films such as the film Le Grand Rendezvous. Again, sorry about the pronunciation. I do not speak French either. And voicing a character in the Italian language dub of the Toy Story spin-off Lightyear. In 2023, he also began releasing music because he is an accomplished classical pianist, and the track names of the songs that he released were references to Ferrari's internal names for each Grand Prix. So he had like Oz 23 for Australia 23, had MIA 23, Miami, and Mon 23, which is either going to be Monaco or Monza. And I don't know which one it is, so that's something to work out. But that is everything that I was going to say about Charles Leclerc. So hopefully that's been interesting for you and helped you kind of get to know him a little bit more. He is absolutely adored by Italian men, specifically. You should see, a lot of girls love him. Fair enough, like he's a beautiful man. But you should see the way that Italian men treat him. They are obsessed with him. Like, they love him. I've never seen someone fangirl more than an Italian man over Charles Leclerc, and that is me speaking facts. So, yeah. Thank you very, very much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please do let me know, rate, like, comment, subscribe. Share the podcast if you would like to. I would really, really appreciate it. And I will see you in a couple of days for another F1 for Beginners episode, and then a couple of days after that for an episode on Charles' teammate, Carlos Sainz. So yeah, thank you very much. Bye!